joining me today in this topic of seasoning of title, which is within our topic within our series of demystifying the mortgage process for buying a house. All right, in this topic, seasoning of title, it doesn't really apply to the person that's buying the home, but it more so applies to the seller. And I know you're wondering, well, how can the seller affect me buying a home? Basically, what it means is the seller has to own that house for a minimum of 6 months in order for the lender to provide you the money to purchase it. For whatever reason, issue with investors, buying houses for extremely low amount and flipping them or wholesaling them, which is the term people use. Well, let's say they buy a house for $40,000, and they turn around within 2 weeks or 2 months and resell it for $100,000. This was happening very often. It was perfectly legal, and it is perfectly legal. However, the real estate industry had an issue with this, and so now they said, hey, if you want to sell this house that you purchased for $40,000 without doing any repairs, or it doesn't really matter if you did do any repairs, but you want to sell this house that you purchased for $40,000 for $100,000, you have to wait 6 months opposed to doing it in 2 months. It's basically all it means, that the owner has to own the property for at least a minimum of 6 months. Doesn't matter if they make improvements to the property or not, they must own it for at least 6 months. So really all it does is make investors wait. And I guess if they have a mortgage, you know, it puts a little strain on them. But if you really know what you're doing, and if the investor knows what they're doing, it really doesn't. So it's just a technicality, but it's important to know your lender will not fund the deal if the owner has owned the property for less than 6 months. No need to freak out over that. I mean, just something that you want to communicate with your realtor when you're about to make an offer for the property. Hey, can you find out how long this person has owned the property? Or depending on what state that you're buying the property in, there's ways for you to find out the information on your own as well. But we're not going to cover that today. So let me just recap. Seasoning of funds doesn't really apply to the person buying the property. It's more so for the owner. The owner of the property that you're buying must own that property for at least a minimum of 6 months. That's the whole thing with seasoning of title. So if they owned it more than 6 months, you're perfectly fine. So just wanted to let you know that. Thank you for checking out this topic. Be sure to check out other topics in our series of demystifying the mortgage process.